My name's Tim, and I was one of the 2 primary boat carriers on Canoe4Covid.
One day I just got a call from Nolan, and pretty much he just said Kayla and Georges were planning a 6-day trip, and that's been a dream of mine since I did my 50-day back in 2018, so I just hopped on board.
My name's Kaylin, and I carried the barrel, as well as working on filming and our media promotion.
Last summer I was a counselor in training at Camp Womack, and I met all the boys there. I have no nerves. I'm just ready to be out there. Whatever happens, happens, and that's what the story will entail.
My name's Will Vise. I was a trip navigator and double pack carrier.
When these guys approached me, they thought, well, where are we going to go for 60 days? We need a route. And I said, I've got plenty of those. I made the whole route myself from scratch before I even knew we were doing a 60-day trip, because I've done a big chunk of this route before on various other trips. So now I'm just combining all the puzzle pieces together into one long route.
Hi, I'm Jacob, and I was the pack carrier and fisherman on the trip.
I've been canoeing for about my whole life now. I think I started going to camp at around 9 years old. I had already known a few of the members on this team, but I met most of them last year at camp as my first year of staff.
My name's George, and I was the trip chef, and I also carried the Onamakawash.
The food's fairly basic. It's usually just rice or pasta with like some kind of dehydrated sauce and protein. I think my only concerns are just weather when it comes to the big water on Nipigon and Superior, but I think we have a lot of days scheduled in, so it's not going to be too much of a concern.
My name is Nolan Azes, and I was one of the boat carriers and also the fire maker.
I've loved canoe tripping my whole life. I was introduced to the outdoors at a very young age. And I've always just loved the sense of being outdoors. My longest trip to date has been 22 days, so if anything scares me, it's maybe the length of the trip.
Together, the 6 of us plan to travel 2,000 kilometers over 60 days across Ontario. We took note of the massive economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and decided we had to help out. And thus our trip was born. We set a fundraising goal of $60,000 to be donated to Food Banks Canada. We chose to raise money for food banks as we figured that community support would be the most effective way for us to help out. And so our plan was set. All that was left to do now was prepare and train until finally we were ready to set sail.
So here we are, last day before trip. We're leaving tomorrow morning, waiting on the other boys to get here, packing up all the last of the stuff. I've been trying to organize this pack. We ran into the problem, we couldn't fit the billy kit into the Onamakawash because this Onamakawash too narrow. So we're having to work around that. Hopefully we are able to sort everything out by tomorrow morning.
This trip took us months to plan. 60 days in the wilderness was going to be no small feat. For weeks, we'd spend hours a day packing and preparing. All of our friends and family were super supportive, and they'd help us pack for hours on end. A few days before the trip, we picked up our boats from Novacraft and were ready to set sail. All that was left to do was our news interviews, and then off we went.
Already past 50% of our goal, which is $60,000. We're also very excited to announce that 50% of the money we raise will be donated to Indigenous communities that have been affected by COVID-19. Some communities that we've passed through on our previous canoe trips.
So we've just finished the interview with CBC.
Yes, we did.
And now we're on the way to Bolton to pick up our RV.
We're running off of like 4 hours of sleep.
We're so
and we had to
tired.
talk and be on TV. That's gonna be embarrassing.
Fitz is here.
That's all for now.
Boys are at the RV place.
Oh yeah?
Got everything packed. Look at those.
Yeah, gotta go.
Check out this RV.
It was almost unbelievable. Finally, after months of careful planning and coordination, we were on our way. Our drivers, Roy, Ralph, Scott, and Tyler, were great company and provided us with lots of great advice on the 3-day car ride up north. Alright boys, it's 7:00 p.m. right now. We're approaching Sault Ste. Marie.
We've been approaching Sault Ste. Marie for 3 years. I don't think it exists.
I don't know where we are.
The government conspiracy.
The government conspiracy.
So, the most unbelievable thing in the world is happening. We have 6 boys who are gonna canoe 60 days, 2,000 kilometers. We have Uncle Roy, we got Ralphie, we got our new buddy Tyler. Everything's just bringing this together. The only concern I have is weather. The boys, they know what they're doing, they've got their safety trained. The biggest thing is weather and them making the right decisions to stay put when weather's bad and not foolishly get ready.
On the 3rd day of our drive, we were contacted by Bruce Heyer, a former MP of Thunder Bay, who had offered for us to stay the night at his outpost before we made our way into the vast expanse of the Canadian North. And so it was on that final morning, after spending the night at Bruce's place, that we finally set off towards Ottawa.
Final preparations and final checklists. We are off this morning. This is the final time we will ride in this RV, and then we will make our own way to Ottawa by foot and by paddle.
We had driven 3 days, all the way from Toronto to Armstrong, Ontario. Near Armstrong, Ontario was our starting point in Wabakimi. From there we would travel 2,000 kilometers over 60 days towards Ottawa. Our first segment was 9 days long, spanning from Armstrong to Nipigon. Along the way we passed through Wabakimi Provincial Park and Lake Nipigon. And thus our last morning in civilization ended here, on a small bridge over a swampy river somewhere in northern Ontario.
Yo, Tim, can you get all the Nalgene's out of the back of the RV? All of them are in the back part. I gave all the ones from the inside and back.
For the rope. Mine's the orange one.
Try not to miss me in the middle, Tim.
Yes! Let's go. See you guys in 60.
See you in Ottawa, boys. Love you, buddy.
The first few hours were cold, rainy, and navigationally challenging. Excitement was high among the group, but as the rain held, we began wondering exactly what we'd gotten ourselves into.
Oh, is the rain starting again? 3rd time today it's been raining. Man, my jacket's soaked. Like, I can't throw this thing on. It's the rain, man.
So, we're here on day 1, still in the boats. Got all the boys around here. And, we're a little lost right now, but we'll figure it out, don't you worry. We're having a good time, keeping the spirits high. And, we'll be there soon.
Sure enough, it wasn't long before we stopped for a break and discovered a small sign announcing our arrival into Wabakimi.
We're now entering the jungle. Here it is. That right there, complete civilization. That right there is the jungle.
Welcome to the jungle.
We've already paddled about 35 clicks. The boys are pretty close to the site, and we're feeling great, man. First day. Go.
Finally, after so many months of planning, we again felt that familiar sense of limitless freedom. Everything about this rugged North Country was so raw, unaltered, and breathtakingly beautiful. We still had some doubts and anxieties, but we all shared the same feeling that each of us was exactly where we needed to be.
Fritter night.
Needless to say, after a long first day of hard paddling, everyone was very tired and quickly ready for bed. We were eager to see what the next 60 days would bring us, and were prepared for any challenges we might face along the way.
About 40 minutes ago we just left our most northern campsite that any of us have ever been to yet, up on Caribou Bay of Smoothrock Lake. We're still on Smoothrock Lake right now. It's an absolutely massive lake. We just got a good 5 or 6 clicks in before breakfast. We're gonna have some food now. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty damn hungry. So far the day's going pretty well. Absolutely beautiful weather out, not a cloud in the sky, which is crazy considering yesterday we got absolutely just poured on. But we've got a long way to go still. We're gonna paddle down Smoothrock Lake, and we're gonna do the Lookout River today, and then get to Onamakawash, and eventually camp on Anibis Lake, which is Bruce's little outpost.
But before we even had the chance to leave our breakfast spot, we ran into some serious trouble.
So we just lost our GoPro in the lake here. She doesn't seem like she's gonna be coming back anytime soon. Kaylin put in a very, very solid effort, and George as well, to dive and try and find it, but it's just gone. Lost a lot of footage, and
Right behind you. On the
we
pack,
lost,
on the
you
side.
know, the GoPro,
Yeah, right
which
there.
wasn't even our GoPro. You know, it's the way it is. Day 2, we're gonna have to replace that GoPro, obviously, but yeah, day 2.
After that little accident, we pushed on for around 7 hours towards the end of Smoothrock Lake. At the end of the lake, we came to a series of small portages around little waterfalls where we decided to stop and eat lunch. By this point, some of the boys had started feeling very fatigued as the presence of the blazing noonday sun became increasingly noticeable. Nonetheless, we were forced to move on, and shortly thereafter we encountered yet another massive problem.
George right now is calling Rob from Paddlefoot just because earlier today we were doing a bushwhack. I think it was our first bushwhack, and Will just kind of fell, and then a stick kind of got in his eye and kind of hurt him.
Yo, should
Will,
we do the
you want to
footprint thing as well?
show them your eye?
Yeah, sure.
Initially, we weren't too worried about Will's injury. However, as the day wore on and Will's pain only became worse, we grew increasingly concerned. We called some contacts who suggested he may have scratched his cornea, so we decided to have Bruce look at it the next morning when we saw him at his fly-in outpost. The rest of the day passed without incident, and so after Jacob caught us some nice fish for dinner, we settled in to our beautiful rocky site for the night. Bruce had told us when we left the outfitters that he had an outpost somewhere in the interior of the park. He also showed us where the outpost was before we left. Therefore, we decided the best course of action when Will hurt his eye was to get Bruce to fly in and take a look at and make sure everything was alright.
Getting ready to go to Bruce's. Jacob, what are your thoughts of this monumental event?
I hope he has stuff for Will's eye.
I hope Bruce has power and some service. Maybe charge up our phones. Call my dad. Tell him I'm doing all right.
There's our man Bruce.
All right, let's keep going, boys.
We just saw the plane fly by, Bruce's plane, and I think right now we're just waiting for Will to review the map so we can find this railroad portage.
Yeah, we're on track, thank God. Yeah, it's
Oh, boys, no! Get the line! Get the line! This line! No, don't put on. You got it? Yeah, I got it. Alright, ladies and gents. Here we go. Heads up, we're flipping. Yeah.
Well, I was walking through the desert, hot sand in my boots, where the sun it was beaming, my thoughts turned to you. Now it's torturing me, baby, how I'll never hold you. I came across a falcon who sang out the blues. But the hunter was hungry, couldn't find any food. But I don't know about him, baby, but I've been doing out.
Right now we're just getting a tour of Bruce's place. Here it is. And I just found a reishi on a tree. So pretty sweet walk. This is Bruce's cabin he built himself. It's beautiful, man. Whew. It's just exquisite.
When we arrived at Bruce's outpost, he confirmed to us that Will's cornea was likely scratched. However, he assured us that it would likely recover quickly, given that we kept the eye patch on it. Thus, after only a brief visit, we were back on our way to Nipigon.
But I know I can't be the only one. No, I know I can't be the only one.
So we just finished the last portage of the day, like 400 meters or whatever it was.
Got a nice beach campsite today.
Yeah, we got a nice beach campsite today. It's
Yeah.
about 5K down this lake. We're
soft.
just stopping for some
Protein
bars and some Nutella.
Oh yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good today. I discovered a new tactic where basically you take your shirt off, soak it in the lake, and then put it back on. Cools you right down. Bruce came through with a fat watermelon.
Where's the watermelon at?
It's under my pack. We're gonna mock that when we get to the campsite.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be a great time. So we're on the start of the Kopka River now. And this morning we woke up really early. When did we wake up? Like 5? We woke up at 5 and got on the water really fast. There were a ton of bugs around the campsite. And everyone was freaking out, so we got the heck out of there as soon as possible. So yeah, we got out of there really quick and we started off the day with a short lake paddle before arriving at some portages around some rapids. Finished the portage around the waterfall. Pretty hairy portage. You can see Tim coming down with a boat here. Pretty crazy stuff.
Oh my.
Absolutely beautiful. The Kopka Falls. Kept paddling and we had another portage around a pretty big set of rapids. Crazy portage. We seem to have lost the boys temporarily. Me and Heisey went a different way, so beautiful lake.
Super nice.
Necessity sits on a pedestal, another man should dare approach it.
The day so far had been filled with challenging yet beautiful landscapes all around. That was at least until we hit the mountain goat portage, where we hit a nearly 90-degree cliff that we had to portage down. None of us had ever encountered an obstacle like this before, and it took some serious creative thinking to figure out a way around it.
Take a trip with me. Down there. Oh boy.
In my 157 days of canoe tripping, never have I seen something so terrifying.
You want to go on the front or should I?
I'll go on the back.
With a fool, he knows everything. And as I look at my window, the sun it sets down slow. And there's a wiser man than myself once said, there's a life for the life and happiness, friend. Live as you will.
At the bottom, it was just the most beautiful like lake in this canyon almost, and surrounded by cliffs. And we found this really awesome spring water. So we just drank some spring water. Best tasting water you'll ever find is spring water.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, dude, it's so good.
Yo, we're filling up all our Nalgene's here. This is crazy, boy.
Kept paddling. We had a few more decently sized portages around a kilometer. We got to the lake where we were eating lunch, had a nice relaxed lunch. We set off our boats and we had a pretty strong headwind, played some good music to get through that. Couple decent portages and lakes later, we arrived at Abanga Lake, paddled across that, arrived at the biggest set of rapids of the day and the biggest portage of the day as well. It was like 2K with a little connecting route that we took around. Pretty big hill on that. That was pretty brutal.
So we just went on a hunt on this trail. We just finished a portage and had to run back to find you. GoPro. We had it strapped to the boat, and that's how we lost our first GoPro, with the same strap. So we're not using that same GoPro mount again. So we'll switch up the mount, switch up the rig, figure something out that's better. And yeah, see you on Kopka Lake.
We arrived at Kopka Lake and paddled across again in a headwind. Then arrived to the campsite where we are now, at the bridge where we were a couple days ago.
We met these guys, these construction workers on the bridge.
These guys are all going home, so.
Okay,
hey,
sweet. Cinnamon buns.
And some nice blueberry cookies.
Yeah, some nice blueberry cookies. These guys are just super nice. Had a good chat with them. They gave us some really cool and interesting life advice.
Amazing. The best thing you guys could ever have is memories. If you got 3 days off, go and be adventurous. Go out somewhere. Don't worry about money. There's lots of money out there. As long as you guys are willing to work, you'll never have to ever be worried about money. I tell these guys all the time, spend that money. Because next week you got a job. The week that just ran by, you can't get it back. So, save some of it, spend some of it. Yeah. Enjoy it.
Day 5 started fairly quietly. We portaged around the rapids that we had camped near, and then proceeded down the Kopka River towards some more small rapids and then some larger portages. The Kopka River was the first real rapids for us on the trip. It took a little bit of time for us to adjust to the new style of paddling, as the bow and stern communication was often cut short by the loud noise of the rapids.
Call me when you want me to go cross bow or bow.
Left side, paddle left side.
Paddle left side.
Shortly after our morning run in the rapids, we encountered some seriously challenging bushwhacks. We sent Kalen ahead to scout, but what he found did not look promising. Our path was covered in every kind of obstacle you can imagine. It was no doubt that navigating with 2 17-foot canoes would be a massive challenge.
Yo, which way was the path?
To make matters even worse, a lack of communication meant that half of the group went ahead to search for the end of the portage, while the boats got stuck in the dense trees of the forest.
Yo, boy! They can't hear us.
Go, boys!
Yo, I'm gonna run to the end.
What bushwhacking is like. It's a real experience. No carved trail here.
After reaching the end of that brutal bushwhack, we pushed on for another few hours before finally reaching Lake Nipigon. Along the way we encountered many more rapids and small bushwhacks, but none were quite as bad as that first one. Right before turning into Lake Nipigon, we stopped in a little bay and saw some pelicans.
Is it actually a pelican?
Maybe I don't know, boys. I don't know. Maybe they are storks.
After spending a few minutes with the pelicans, finally, we were here at Lake Nipigon. This would be the biggest challenge of our trip yet, and everyone knew it. We would either have to pass straight through the middle of this massive lake, doing about 50 kilometers a day, and crossing through a 16-kilometer gap of open water, or possibly even worse, we would have to paddle over 130 kilometers around the outside in only 2 days. Our decision hinged on the mercy of the weather, so we would wait till tomorrow morning to make our final call.
What a beautiful, beautiful day. Look at that mountain over there. I think there's a big forest fire up there. Burned all the trees.
After paddling 15 kilometers from the mouth of the river, we arrived at our campsite and prepared to settle in for the night. We were now on Jackfish Island, 15 kilometers off the western coast of Lake Nipigon. We were 20 kilometers ahead of schedule and could have pushed further, but because we knew we had such big days ahead of us, we decided to stop for the night and rest in order to make sure that we were ready when those big days came.
Yo, so Jacob just caught the biggest fish I've ever seen, like, in my entire life alive. Yo, what? You feed it with a rock to kill it. Alright, I didn't have my fillet knife on me, so it got on my line, snapped my line, shallow water, I grabbed the biggest rock I could find, jumped in the water and just smashed it on its head. Pretty respectful death, I would say so myself. That's huge! That's a 10-pounder. Like, everyone's getting a few pounds. I thought I got a snag, I was reeling so hard. Like, that's a fucking monster.
After Jacob's big catch and a big, well-deserved meal, we headed off to bed for the night.
After a well-deserved slow morning and some nice coffee and breakfast, boys are now loading up the boats, getting everything ready, and we're about to send a few kilometers, just see as far as we can get with this wind. Obviously we won't be able to make that 10-kilometer crossing, but if we can get to the end right before then, that'd be perfect. So I'm so excited to see how she goes. It's gonna be a good low today. Beautiful day out here, even despite the wind.
We had decided that morning to make the gap across the center of the lake. This meant that we would have to wait for just the right window of opportunity, where the winds were not too strong, to cross that massive gap. If we missed that window, even just slightly, and the winds picked up, we could overturn our boats and end up in a very dangerous situation. Therefore, it was absolutely key for us to set ourselves up well today in order to make the big gap tomorrow.
Just paddled against a little bit of a headwind, about 5k from the campsite. Just stopping for a quick water break.
Boys, we're in a good rhythm. You're hauling, you know what it is. We should be around 10k from the big clearing that we planned just to camp, wait out till the wind kind of dies down more, till we have a tailwind, and then we're just going to send it across that 10-kilometer stretch.
When we arrived at the edge of Wilson Island, we realized we had left one of our cameras on an island we had taken a break on several kilometers back. Thus, while everyone stayed to make an early lunch, myself and Georges went back to retrieve the lost camera.
So when we took a break here last, this spot right here, I forgot to pick up the GoPro from the ground just right there. And Nolan and I had to paddle tandem all the way from probably like a good 5 or 6 kilometers back. That's where we came from. Now we're gonna have to go back into that wind, meet up with the boys again.
Having nearly capsized on our way back to where the boys were, we were quickly realizing the dangers of this big lake. If the wind wasn't what we hoped the next day when we were doing the 10-kilometer crossing, we would be in for some serious trouble. We were trying to push all the way to the bottom of Wilson Island in order to make the 10-kilometer gap first thing in the morning. However, heavy winds kept us stuck at the top of the island, and thus we had to set up camp in a less than ideal spot.
We just paddled out of one of the craziest headwinds ever. And these boys, sidewind even, these boys are coming across now. Absolutely killing it. Oh, these waves are probably the biggest waves I've ever been on my entire life.
The wind speed is approaching 20 kilometers per hour right now.
All right, let's pull it up more. This is craziness. Ha ha, boys! Ha ha, boys. That's crazy.
That is too scary.
We weren't playing around, boys. Like I told you, that was some crazy winds. So we decided to come and crash on this little bush site here. And Nolan, Kayla, and I built this like rock wall here around our fire pit to prevent the massive wind from coming in. It's working pretty well. We have some shepherd's pie on the way. Shout out GB. And I think we're gonna hit the hay because we got a lot of kilometers to hit tomorrow.
And that's exactly what we did. But not before some concerns were shared about our big gap tomorrow. What if this wind held? How would we make it to the other side of the lake? Could we become stranded on Wilson Island and be unable to make it to the town of Nipigon? Maybe we would end up behind schedule. We each had a million questions on our minds when we were trying to go to bed that night, but none would be answered until the next morning.
It's 4:30 in the morning. We're all awake. Alarms are going off. We're trying to be in the boat by 5 o'clock.
We're paddling to open stretch, open crossing of 10 kilometers in Lake Nipigon. Hopefully we can paddle 80K today and get to the bottom of Lake Nipigon for a food drop in 2 days, boys. 3 days.
So right now the boys are on an island 5 kilometers away from Wilson Island and 10 kilometers away, and that 10 kilometers is our big gap. You can see right now the winds have picked up, so we're just taking a break before we set out on a 10-kilometer gap, and hopefully these winds die down. We're gonna reach someone on the sat phone to see when these winds will calm down and get an update on the weather. But for right now, we're kind of paralyzed in the spot. Yep.
And so we set forth, after double checking that the winds wouldn't pick up anytime soon. We hauled on across the gap. The winds were calm and we didn't encounter any major resistance. Nonetheless, the ordeal was still extremely stressful and challenging.
So the boys are here right now. We just paddled the crossing and did a little bit more. We did 16K. The sun has attacked us.
Oh yeah, the sun was brutal a couple of the times. A couple of the boys had to take some stops to take a piss and a couple of water breaks, but all the boys are feeling pretty good. I know a couple of the boys are pretty dehydrated and need a little extra water and a little extra electrolyte drinks, but we should be able to finish the day and finish this 80K.
We kept paddling, horizon over horizon, and as the day wore on, the sun only got hotter. As we had run out of sunscreen, we were forced to set up various types of rigs using our towels in order to prevent sunburn. However, despite our efforts, the day was still incredibly hot, and thus we were forced to stop every once in a while and go swimming in the lake. As much as we wanted to give up sometimes, we knew that the only way through was forward, so we kept our brakes to a minimum and continued to haul on until the sun set.
Woo! So this is our site for tonight. We found such a sweet site right at the end of Nipigon.
All that times 3 today. To the horizon times 3.
Nice site. Check this out in the back though, right here. In here is gonna be our site, dude. Unload the packs, unload everything in there. I'll help you self-load.
Hey guys, what's up? It's me and Heisey in the boat just doing a water run. Just finished day 7. We woke up at around 5:30. We paddled 30K before breakfast. The sun was really damaging to both our skin and kind of our morale throughout the day.
We actually saw a cell tower just past the mountains over there, and we stopped for a quick bit, called our family and friends, told them everything was all right. The winds truly were amazing and in our favor today. As you can see, like the water is just so flat out today. And we turned out to get on a really nice campsite
flat rock, high up, nice and windy, so hopefully there's no bugs tonight. And yeah, it was a haul of a day, but it was a good day.
Yeah, definitely today was nice. Getting that cell reception, calling my dad, calling some of my friends, and just letting them know that I'm okay and having a great time. And also letting them know that Wabakimi is such a great area to trip in once again. There's a lot of bushwhacks and waterfalls, but if you know what you're dealing with and you know the dangers, you can really have a great time. Anything else to add?
Summed it up perfectly.
See the church? It's nothing compared to Holy.
We woke up late, but with a huge sense of achievement for what we had accomplished yesterday. Paddling from sunrise to sunset, we had met and then dramatically exceeded any kind of expectations we had set for ourselves. From here on out was smooth sailing. All we had to do was make it down the Nipigon River in 2 days. This was light work in comparison to everything we'd done over the past week. We were really looking forward to getting to our food drop and getting a bit of a break.
So we just arrived at Pine Portage. Boys are taking a little break right now. Jacob's got the Nutella. Got a brief trek around this big guy over here. And then we're on the Nipigon River.
It's big, eh? Check that out.
Yeah, she's big.
When I met a man who stepped in time to the rhythm of the blues that lay not sing of that old song, 20,000 leagues under the sea.
End of the portage now. We've made it to the bottom of the dam. You can see there.
Ripped the 1.5/2K. Boys are feeling hype.
For a while now, step into your tune.
How are the boys feeling?
Feeling great. It's a decent hot day. It's very hot.
Yeah, quite warm. I love all the rigs the boys got on right now for some sun protection.
On the head, on the legs, everywhere. Gotta stay protected without sunscreen.
Because we ran out of sunscreen on day 5.
We'll have better planning for the next sentence.
You wore another coat in her last days. Told me it's a matter of time before we all fade away. Of that old science, no one knows her name. But it's
Caught a couple crayfish here. Gonna have some dinner tonight. Alright, we are arriving at our campsite now. How do you feel, boys?
Feel nasal, man.
Compared to yesterday, today was a pretty short day. 39 kilometers. And here we are, big old dam right in front of Cameron Falls.
We set up camp at Cameron Falls, right at the start of the 4-kilometer portage that we would face the next morning. Nipigon was so close now, we could almost feel it. But even still, Nipigon was only a short break. Once we reached there, we still had over 50 days to go in our trip. Everything we'd done, everything that had happened, not even a fraction of what would happen. We couldn't wait for the days to come. We woke with lots of anticipation for our final day in the first segment. We only had to travel around 20 kilometers, and we knew a big meal and good rest awaited us at the end. Our day started with a 4-kilometer portage around the dam that we had camped near, followed by a lazy drift downstream as we found ourselves in a strong current.
as I'm told, so far away from the place I used to call home. Time's running river, it'll slowly unfold. There's a reason for everything, nothing
We had arrived in Nipigon hardly 2 hours after we got off the site, and we wasted no time at all going to the nearest grocery store and getting some more food. It was nice to have a bit of a break, but the work never ended. After George's sister and her boyfriend dropped off all of our food, we were busy preparing for our next seg. 18 days along Lake Superior, and then up the Nipigon River and through Missinaba area through to Chapleau. It would be our longest and most dangerous seg, and we couldn't wait to get started.
Day I'll fall, and it'll hurt like hell. And the forgotten lying with you, but too blind to tell. And as you lie in silence, you'll wonder why. Your imagined importance came with you to die. There's a billion out there like you, makes me wanna cry. I wander in the darkness, feeling around like a blind man. Can't find the light switch, but it only matters when. The dark side of the moon, shining back like a mirror. Shadows in the sun, bright lights in the night. What does it mean? Nobody knows. Guess we just keep floating around like a bunch of lost souls.